Hey everyone, welcome to Financial Revelations. I am your host, David Szafranski, and I got asked recently why I do short form podcasts, because there's these podcasts out there now that will go 2 and 3 hours, and the simple answer is I don't have the time to do a 3-hour podcast, and I really don't think most people have the desire to watch a 3-hour podcast. So I do short form podcasts. We get to the point quickly. You could hear us on the radio every Thursday morning, 103.3 if you're in Cleveland, the Moody Radio App. If you're not in Cleveland, and we have people that listen to the podcast all over the world. We get a weekly report from all the services that we load this onto, and I think every continent somebody's listening. I don't know if China is in there. I don't really care if the Chinese listen or not, to be honest, but 1-800-344-2534 if you want to call here. And if you have a question, we're going to answer a listener question today. If you have a question, you can email those to Corey@epsf.com. All of it's running below me. As you know, we're going to do an Amazon missions trip in March of 2025. It's looking like at the end of the first week, we're going to depart. And we're going to go dig a well, most likely, in the middle of the Amazon again. Then we do other projects while we're there, too. And you can go see some of that stuff at nativosusa.org. The pastor from the Amazon is going to be here next week. He's going to be here for a month. We have some churches that he's going to speak at. Marcos and his wife Paula are coming. And so if you'd like to, if you really wanted to meet Marcos, you could do that in the next month if you have an interest and you're close. So he's going to be in the Ohio area and for about a month, and then in Florida for about a week on the way out. There's, believe it or not, in the Orlando, Fort Myers areas, there's tons of Brazilian expats. They really want to come here because here you could actually make a living. You could support yourself with a job for the most part. Last 3.5 years have made that really difficult, much more so than before. But in Brazil, a socialist country, it is really tough to make your way there. It is just at every turn, you try and open up a business, which we did there. And so I've seen this firsthand, how difficult they make it to own a business in Brazil. It's like they want to punish you because you had an idea. They got the ideas and they're going to give them to you, is essentially what they told me. So I want to get started with, so if you want to meet Marcos, give me a call. We'll return your call, of course, or email. We can make that happen. He's also speaking at churches and raising money for projects. So this is really a fundraising trip, and he will raise a lot of money here. And knowing them, you know, I don't give my money to a lot of places. In fact, a few years ago, my lovely wife and I sat down. We do this every year at the end of the year and just kind of look over our giving. We just did it, changed some stuff in the last couple of weeks. And we are giving to a lot of different things. And I really felt led to pare that down so that we could have an impact where we were giving. And then over the years, starting in 2013, we started giving to the Amazon. But I give my money there. I see how it's used firsthand. I know that they're responsible with money. At the end of every well drill or every mission trip that we go to there, I get an expense report. I see where every single dime went, and they'll even return money to us if it was unspent. We have never taken it back because the need there is so dramatic that we usually say, well, let's buy food for people. You know, we gave the money, but that's how good they are with money. So I trust them. And I have these antennae that catch scams. I don't see that going on here. I've seen a lot of scams in my lifetime, of course. Being in the financial industry gets brought to my attention. Sometimes I just see them. And so this is the real deal. And what I don't want you to do is if you're donating to a church, if you're tithing to a church, I don't want your tithe money from your church. This is above and beyond that. So let's talk about the finances a little bit. September is a pretty big month. There's 3 distinct things that are going to happen in September that are going to be potentially market-moving events, and I want you to be ready for them. The first one is on September 6th, which is an Apple event where they're going to come out with the iPhone 16. And not only the iPhone 16, but they're going to come out with a new line of iPads and some other techie stuff. Of course, they're all techie stuff with Apple, but the important thing about them is in their upgrade cycle, in this new upgrade cycle that they're about to go through, the software that you're going to need to download to use Apple products is not going to work on the oldest Apple iPhones. iPhone 8 and below, you're not going to be able to update it. You're not going to be able to use all the features. And so that pushes millions more phones into the upgrade cycle. I happen to know somebody with an iPhone 8, and it doesn't work great, mainly just because of the storage space. And the amount of upgrades to the software have been so dramatic over time. And that's, I do think there is some planned obsolescence with Apple products, of course. Of course there is. However, I also think that the upgrade cycles can be so overwhelming sometimes, the things that they're adding in, the old hardware just can't handle it. And that's what is happening here. So that is going to be a big event. And it's certainly going to affect Apple stock, but it can affect a lot of things that are ancillary around them. And so be ready for that. On September 10th, there's a presidential debate. They have agreed to a presidential debate. Donald Trump wanted the rules of the first presidential debate, and he got mainly what he wanted, but it's on ABC. Not going to be a friendly environment to any Republican that's a right-leaning Republican, and you'd have to classify Donald Trump as that. The mainstream press is never going to be friendly to conservatives. And quite frankly, I'm sick of hearing people complain about it. It's just not going to happen. It hasn't ever been friendly to conservative principles. I don't know why, but they haven't. You can go back all the way to Vietnam and before to see the left lean in major media outlets, the NBC, CBS, ABC certainly. CNN did not really start out that way, but it is certainly that way now. And MSNBC is just there. I think you have to be a certifiable moron to work at MSNBC. I hope they don't offer me a job now. I don't think they will. There is one guy on CNN. He was a Republican strategist, and he lets it fly. He's definitely conservative, and they let him talk. So they are allowing a little bit of diversity of opinion there. It's not going to change anything, but so that presidential debate is on September 10th on ABC. And as they're talking, I want you to remember they're going to talk about price controls because the Harris-Walz team wants to institute price controls. April 15th, 1971, Richard Nixon did that. I think economically we kind of vowed a vow never to do that again, but they're bringing it up. It must be, even if it's bluster, they're talking about it. It could happen. So when Oprah Winfrey likes to say, when people tell you who they are, believe them. And these people are economic nincompoops. Believe them. And then on September 17th and 18th, the biggest thing that's going to happen is there will be a Fed meeting led by none other than Chair Powell. And he's going to lead the rate cut regime. The rate cut regime is going to be beginning. And the rate cut itself, relatively innocuous. It doesn't really have a lot of immediate impact. The thing that it immediately impacts is mortgage rates, savings rates, credit card rates. And credit card rates, when you're at 22% and your rate goes to 22 and 3 or 21 and 3/4, it's not very meaningful. So if you're running credit card debt, first of all, stop. You cannot, wealthy, financially successful people do not run credit card debt for long periods of time. And most of them don't run credit card debt at any time. So if you use your credit card, you pay your credit card. You do not run debt month to month on a credit card. Now, are there reasons why people do that? Sure there are. But your goal should be to pay off your credit card every month. And if you can't do that, don't use your credit card. Okay? Until it's paid off. But the most important thing about the rate cut regime that we're about to start isn't the amount of the cut that we're going to get. That's going to be 25 basis points. This Fed is very incremental. They don't want to do kind of like knee-jerk moves, and because it scares the market. But it's the directional heading of rates. It's like the temperature. If you woke up and you were going to go fishing. I hate fishing, by the way. But let's say you're going to go fishing and you're going to be out on Lake Erie all day long. You say, what's the temperature? And somebody says 72. That's meaningless because you need to know where it's going. That's what's important. If it's going to 95, you're going to need sunscreen, a hat, and some coverage. If it's going to 65, you're going to need a whole different set of circumstances. So we need the directional heading, and that's what we're going to get on the 18th at 2 o'clock, 2:30, when Fed Chair Powell has his press conference. And he's going to talk about bringing the rate down. He's not going to say where exactly it's going to. I think it's going to 3.5%. So that would be 200 basis points in rate cuts, 8 rate cuts at a quarter point. Unemployment is rising. Odds are we'll see a recession right around November, December timeframe. Short-lived, most likely. We don't know. But the economy is definitely slowing down. And one of the things that the Fed did at the last, at Jackson Hole last week, is they restated the jobs numbers for the last 12 months to nearly 1 million jobs lower. Those are private sector jobs that never happened, that the government reported. Gina Raimondo, who is the, she's in the cabinet. I'll think of it. She's a pretty respectable member of the cabinet, and she let me down. I got to be honest. She said, well, I hadn't heard that the numbers had been lowered. And that is just a lie. Of course she knows that the numbers got lowered. And for the first time, I really felt like she was selling the presidential book on this one. It was disappointing because she is really good at her job. She could have been a qualified presidential candidate, much more qualified than Kamala Harris, but she's just not well known enough. She's a governor from the East Coast. So anyway, September's a big month. Be looking for these things. The next question, the question that we have from a listener is, in a Donald J. Trump presidency, what does the economy look like and what should we invest in? And I think you could go back to the last President Trump economy and see what that looked like, because a lot of the things that he did then, we will do now. He will open up oil and gas drilling and set that industry, basically let them go. And we want to be clean. Of course we want to be clean, and you could do those things and drill a lot. Drilling for oil is way cleaner today than it was just 20 years ago. And so oil and gas production is going to skyrocket. That's going to bring down the price of oil and gas and gasoline at the pump. And if you have a natural gas house, which is the best way to heat your house, it's going to bring your cost down. And that lowers the cost of a lot of things, because you think if gas is cheaper, the cost to get your raspberries to the grocery store is cheaper. That's going to drop in price. And that's how you expand an economy. So all the ancillary industries around oil and gas will also expand. So you'll get a growing economy. You'll get cheaper fuel, cheaper energy. The mother's milk of a capitalistic economy is cheap, reliable, renewable, repeatable energy. And we have it. They just don't want to. They'd rather convince you that a windmill is better. And I'm not saying that windmills are stupid, but these windmill farms that we have are stupid. They will never produce the amount of energy that it took to produce the windmill. And they're expensive. And they use, they talk about cement as being a cause of global warming. you should look at how much cement is used in anchoring one of these gigantic windmills to the ground. The windmill blades are not recyclable. You just bury them. I call windmills bird blenders because that's essentially what happens. Birds migrate through these windmill fields. They just get chopped up like mincemeat. So what should you invest in? Well, first of all, I like your thinking about a Donald J. Trump presidency because I do think that's going to happen. I think it's not inevitable, and we could snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory still yet. Republicans are pretty good at doing that from time to time, but I do think it's going to happen. But when you look at the economy and investing, rates are coming down. That has nothing to do with Donald Trump, but rates are coming down, and he's going to be the president. So certainly real estate investments are going to be a really good option for us because it's going to make real estate a little bit cheaper, and you will build more houses. The shortage in houses really doesn't have a lot to do with economics. It has more to do with after 2008, a lot of the biggest builders went out of business, and the biggest builders that were left were taking smaller risks with large tracts of land because we didn't know what was going to happen. Right as we were starting to come out of that, COVID happened. You couldn't build a house for 18 months in some places. That's a shortage in the making. So that shortage will resolve itself over time, but it's going to take some time. But in the meantime, real estate, there's some good real estate index ETFs that you can get into that have the biggest house builders in it. I still would probably stay away from commercial real estate. People still aren't going back to work like they were before the pandemic, and they may never do it again. I like tech because tech tends to be a little bit higher leverage. They have more loans on the books, and as interest rates come down, their cost of doing business just gets cheaper. And so I like tech companies. A lot of people think the small caps, the smallest companies in the marketplace, these are still big companies, but they're not Apple size, Amazon size. They're small. They tend to be focused in one area of the economy a little bit more. They also are highly levered. They will have a cheaper cost of business when interest rates come down. So things like that. The economy is also slowing. That's why they're lowering interest rates. So trade down stocks that have what I call a sticky environment once you get there. So I'm going to use the name of a company and the word sticky together. You may not like it. Walmart and sticky. You don't want a sticky Walmart. But when you get to a Walmart, Walmart has this stigma about them in some places that it's not highfalutin enough. But I could get the things that I eat for lunch there about 20% cheaper than I can at the grocery store right across the street from my office, right around the corner. So why wouldn't I do that? And then once you get to Walmart, you notice, okay, they have a lot of green stuff there too. They have a lot of fruits and vegetables and groceries and fresh items. They're the largest organic grocer in the country right now. I don't really buy my technology from there, but I buy a lot of stuff there. It is a great place to shop, and you can do it online, and they'll walk your groceries right out to your trunk for you. So the thing that I like about Apple is you buy an iPhone, and then you get a MacBook, which you could use Microsoft Word on a MacBook now because it's an app. $99 a year. It was great for Apple to do that. It was even better for Microsoft to annuitize that business. And then they talk to each other. You schedule an appointment here, and it goes here. And then for travel, you might get yourself an iPad, and these things are talking together. And then lo and behold, you got an Apple Watch. That's called a sticky environment. You go to Walmart for groceries, and then you realize that they sell work boots there, and televisions, and bicycles, and there's a pharmacy. That's a sticky environment. People tend to go there and you say, you know what? I don't know what people are talking about. This is kind of nice. Some of the other, and I call it a trade down stock because people are trading from higher cost grocery store environments to a lower cost Walmart, and then they stick around. Now, Walmart won't keep 100% of that business. I don't need them to. I need to keep about 50% of it. So you get a new customer, half of those new customers stay, you're expanding your business. I like that. Another trade down stock, I just have to look around this, is what we named our dogs. My wife wanted to name our dogs after something that was powerfully meaningful in her life, something that had had an impact that will live on for generations. So she named our dogs TJ and Max. I'm just kidding. They're not named TJ and Max. It's a joke. But I like TJ Maxx because also a trade down stock. You could go to Neiman Marcus to buy your stuff, sure. Or you could wait till it shows up at TJ Maxx for 30 cents on the dollar and pay a lot less for it. Have you ever been in a TJ Maxx that wasn't crowded? Asking for a friend? The dollar stores I don't love as much, but the ones that I do like, you could look at the dollar stores. That is a heavy trade down stock. So if the economy got even worse, those stores tend to do extremely well because people just don't want to pay. They're not going to pay top dollar prices when they can go to a Dollar Tree or Dollar General. Is there a Dollar General on every corner right now? And they're building more. Can they build a Dollar General on top of a Dollar General? Does that make sense? We're probably going to find out someday. Those are the things that I like in this economy. I do like oil and gas too. I think oil and gas is going to be valuable. The key to oil and gas, if Donald Trump gets elected and he opens up the oil and gas fields, the key to them actually succeeding is in expanding their markets. So if you open up the oil and gas fields but don't grow the economy, you're just going to get a lot of cheap oil and gas, and those companies actually get hurt. But if you're increasing their customer base, so you bring the price down, but you bring the customer base way up, they win. So I like oil and gas too, especially the big guys. I like the big guys right now. There's some little ones that I like too. Our quarterly letter is going to be coming out for clients. It's for clients only. If you're not a client, you can't have it. Probably get it on the secondary market somewhere, but I'm not going to tell you how. And I am David Szafranski, a real American, a true red-blooded patriot, and the voice you can trust.